Hi, I'm Diane with the Best Life, Best Death podcast. And I'm excited today to have an entrepreneur with me, somebody who's developed a product that I think my listeners are going to be really interested in. So, welcome, Maria.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
This is great. This is Maria Fraietta of the Nokbox.com. And Nokbox, for those who are listening, Nokbox stands for the next of kin box. And Maria developed this after, kind of her own personal experience with someone who died. So she's going to tell us about how it got going and tell us about what it is. And I think you'll agree with me that this is a pretty interesting thing we could all use. So glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And you can find out all the details about the Nokbox on thenokbox.com. That's the Nokbox.com. So give us the background, Maria. That's my rambly introduction, but tell us how the Nokbox got going. And I guess I could say that I heard of this just in the last week. A friend saw this on Facebook and forwarded it to me and said, I think you'll think this is kind of interesting as an end of life organizing thing. And so indeed, I thought it was just a really great system. So tell us about how this came to be.
Yeah, thanks. So in January, and I can't believe it's been this long, it's been over a year now, my father passed away in upstate New York, and I have two brothers, and they called and we had to go to upstate New York, and we all met in this hotel outside of right next to the hospital where he was. And we sat and looked at each other and said, what do we do now? We have no idea. It was funny, not funny. We didn't even know the first thing. Do we call a funeral home? Do we call what do we do? So we started to figure it out. We did call the funeral home, and I have some very funny stories about those phone calls because, again, we didn't even know what to ask. And my middle brother, who lives in the same town as my dad, brings a cardboard box full of folders and papers and said, here's all the stuff. He has a will. It's in here somewhere. So we thought, okay, that's terrific. Let's start digging through and see what he's got. And my dad had nice folders with labels on them and things, and that was nice. But the first thing I said was, we've got to organize this thing before we all head up to his very small town with no office stores or anything like that. I'm going to run to the office depot or whatever it was and get what I need. And, when you have something happen, I think sometimes your brain thinks a lot faster. At least mine did. It was very on autopilot. I need folders. I need a box. I need a zipper bag. I need something.
Let me get concrete with this big thing that's happened, but let's go.
Absolutely. Concrete. Right. It was a weird control thing, I think, or something like that. But anyway, so I leave the store with the materials for this box, and we get in the car and schlep up to his house and start digging through the rest of his house. And then we realize, oh my goodness, this is massive. It's not a cardboard box. It's somebody's entire life. Right. And He was pretty simple. He did not have a big house. He lived alone, not a lot, but his dresser drawers and his wallet and his computer and then his phone.
He was fairly well organized. It sounds like it's not like he was in total disarray, but still so much to find and so much to do.
Look around your own house, right? And there are a million things that somebody would have to go through to sort all that out. So, we pile everything on the kitchen table and get to work, and let's start a vehicle folder and let's find all the vehicles. And he had snowmobiles and campers and trailers. Where are the keys? I bought key tags. I'm going to need a tag for each one of these things that we've got to find. And it was a lot. And we put it in a little portable box because we knew two of us were leaving and we had to leave instructions for the other brother. So I started writing notes on every folder with sticky notes. Take this to the court, take this to the bank, ask the insurance guy this question, and there were sticky notes. And after I got home, a week or so later, I'm like, why is there not a system for this? This seems ridiculous.
Right.
That I had to make up all these instructions and all these checklists and do all these things. So anyway, one brother took the box and managed to keep running the estate until we just closed it very recently, which is
It takes a
crazy.
long time. It takes a long time. Yep.
Yep, but he really did use that box. We brought it into every bank and we brought it into the courthouse, and it worked. It worked really well.
What I think is interesting is that all of these things, like we just had to renew our passports, right? And you can find out how to renew your passport. It's not, it's not rocket science, but it does take some digging. You have to go through the multiple layers of the US passport situation. One of my daughters is now over 18, so it's a different situation for her. And then you've got to read carefully what are the instructions for where to send it, depending on whether it's expedited or not expedited, how much money, like the details of that one thing are just complicated. And I know, like, all the things you're talking about, the insurance, the vehicles, the passwords, the computers, the insurance, did I already say insurance? Like all this stuff, you can find out how to do it, but you have to go all these different directions to find it. So
Yes.
I love that one of the things you said was, wait a minute, could we put this in one, organized kind of way that would be more clear?
That's right. And while the box does not give you specific, everything is very based on your county that you live in. We don't give any legal,
Yep.
but, for example, the vehicle section, if someone has died, you flip over the back of that sheet that's in the box and it will say, well, find the car, because it could be in storage somewhere. Clean the car. Did you find the keys? Did you find the registration? Is it paid off? Is it not? Is there a lease? It gives you sort of a checklist of all the questions you need to ask yourself to be able to. And then it says what has happened to the car so that you can keep accountability when you go to settle the estate. You can go back and exactly say it got sold or it was transferred.
This was $30,000. Here's what happened to it, or $5,000, whatever the number is. I love you. You say on your website, you say the Nokbox has 14 different categories that account for every aspect of your life. And within each category is a set of labeled folders covering all these different pieces, accounts, various accounts, insurance policies, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's a sheet. And describe again the two sides of this sheet that's in every category.
Yeah. And so when we made my dad's box, I think we had 6 sections: cars, insurance, bank, house, and something else. The estate doc, the wills and things. Well, when I got home to figure this out, it kept getting bigger.
Yeah.
What about social media? What about your assets? What about your pets and your kids? And, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. So it did turn into 14 categories. Yeah. So inside, right, for example, there's a folder for pets. We actually give you a few sheets for pets, assuming you'll have a few, or you may have a few at once or over your lifetime. So on the front of that sheet, it's really about if something happened to you tomorrow, somebody could grab that sheet and at least care for your pet right away.
Yes.
Pet's name, the vet, the doggy daycare, the food, just the basics. If you just had a dog sitter, you could hand over that folder.
Right. I think about older pets. Like sometimes they're on kind of a specific regimen of medication. Who would know that? And who would be paying attention to that in the chaos of all of, what's unfolding?
Right. Your little dog is wandering around they lost their owner, and right, someone's got to take care of that. So it's little things like that perhaps your attorney does not know about. When people say, oh, I've got this covered with my attorney, I'm like, I don't think your attorney is this deep, goes to this level of detail.
They don't know what happens with Xena if I drop off the planet. Yeah.
Right. So, and again, you can use the sheet for your dog sitter as well. I take my folder to the vet when I go with my dog, and I keep my dog records there and nowhere else. They're in this box anyway. Anyway, on one side of the sheet, I can fill that out. On the other side of the sheet, it's if I'm gone, I've located the pet. The pet is safe. We've figured out all the things with the pet, and here's what is happening with this pet as time goes on. Because, family members from all over come out when someone dies as well. Right. And keeping records and keeping track of where every single thing went or how it was sold or where the money is super important as you're going through someone's trust or estate or whatever it is that you're managing. So that flip side is what that's for, the accountability piece,
what
as well
what
as.
to do. And I love that you say that this box acts as a map for your next of kin, which I just think is such a great metaphor. Because I think like about our situation, like we have a couple of different bank accounts. Some of them are business, some of them are personal, some are my husband's, some are mine, some are joint, some are ones we've opened for our daughters. Wow. Who knows
Yes.
where all those account numbers are, or phone numbers of who to even ask, or what the names of the banks are. Right.
Right.
It's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, someone I think could figure it out by flipping through our files, but what if it were all in one place? And then the flip side of that page, what does someone need to do with all of those accounts?
Right. And they don't know what's missing. They may say, oh, I found the bank statements. This is terrific. I found 4 accounts. Well, you have another 6 somewhere else that they did not find. And it makes it really stressful to wonder if things are missing or not. So part of this is just, here is everything. So you don't have to keep looking for more, if that makes sense. One of my favorite ones is in the back. There's a folder for your will. And most people keep their will probably with their attorney or in a safe, and all that is fine. But the most important thing is to check a box to say, I do have a will and here's where it is, or I don't have a will and do not go looking for it, because people look for years. Right. I know she had a will somewhere. Right. Let's keep looking. Wow. And you can just say, I don't have it. Here's what you can do. Good luck.
Right.
Or any of those things.
Or when you find yourself about to check that box that says, I have no will, maybe it inspires you to be like, I'm going to figure this out. Let me download something, DIY a will. Like, it's so important. It's so helpful.
Exactly. So it does help you as you're assembling this box, realize what you need as you go through. I need a medical power of attorney, because so people know what to do with me.
Right.
Or at least you can write your wishes down.
I love it.
Interim.
Yeah. And some people would say, like my husband's very digitally motivated. He would say, well, we have all this digitally. I've scanned it all. What's your response? Why is this not a digital product?
That is the number one question I get about this product. It used to be, why isn't it fireproof? So I thought, okay, well, we can fix that. Most suggestions I just take and change and adapt. But this one, I don't, because I feel as though a few reasons. When you are dealing with this on the other end, you're managing the estate, it is very hard to not have paper. You're making phone calls and you need to jot down notes, and you need to go into the bank and they'll give you a document that says the account was closed, or here's the statement, or, it's still paper as we go through managing.
Well, then you're working in your situation with some siblings, right? So you've got, almost potentially easier to say, here's the file folder with the 4 things in it, than to say, I'll send you the PDF and you save it and I'll save. You get version control on some level with.
Well, I got the camper folder and they sent that to Colorado with me. Here you go. You deal with the camper. And so my camper folder is covered in notes, because I had to go call Florida and find this thing and figure it all out. And I found the bills that he paid. So I shoved that in the folder, and that's who I called. So we have an online spreadsheet.
Again, this vehicle thing, you knew there was a camper, but you didn't exactly know where it was. I love that. That's so fascinating to me, because it's true. We live complicated lives, and our elders live complicated lives. And, do you know where everything is and where the key is? I
thought to myself, I have a camper, and I thought nobody would know where my storage place is unless they found that bill that they send me once a year or something. So that's one reason. And the other is that there are some services you can upload everything to the cloud and they can hold it for you. I am not in the business of internet security or anything like that. At first, when I started this, I thought, oh, a person will just email me everything they've got and I will make them this custom box for all their things. And that was, I don't want to know how many bank accounts you have or what card, that's not my business.
Security piece. Right. So you said, let me develop this literal box. And I love, if you go on your website, you can see these different kind of styles of boxes. And you're like, I will send you the paperwork and you make your own files, or I'll send you the files, or I'll send you the files in a box, including in a fireproof box, if that's what you want.
Depending on, because some people need the whole thing ready to go to get themselves. Because part of this is we all have to do this and we have to think about it a little bit. And the idea is to make this as easy as possible. And I think people like systems. And so here's your system, pull out a folder and toss in the things that you need.
Right. And you
Move
might
on.
find, okay, of those 14 folders, 3 of them aren't relevant to me. Okay, no big deal.
Oh,
You
yeah,
don't have a pet, you don't need the pet folder, but
exactly.
you might.
There are a couple like that, like military. Someone said, have you thought about people in the military? And I said, I didn't. So let's put a folder for that. And I figured out what are the forms people need to go find and that sort of thing. But if you don't need that folder,
You don't
you
need
move
that.
on. But I'd rather just have everything.
I love this question. There's a question on your website. This sounds like something for old people. Like at what, like at what? Okay, this is great. I'll tell my grandparents about it. But at what age do you think this becomes relevant?
Yeah, well, some people are saying this should be a wedding gift for people. You start your life together, and
I love that.
because the younger you are, the easier it is. You don't have anything yet, and you just start, oh, we got a new boat. Let's fill out the folder or drop the paperwork in the folder and move on, So obviously the younger you are, the easier this thing is.
That's great.
On the other side of things, think of all the file cabinets that people have and papers and going through that is really difficult. But back to that, the digital piece. One other thing is this box really can be the only thing that you have. So what I suggest to people is get rid of every paper except this box so that you can be more digital. And each folder in the box just kind of marks one physical thing for your digital. People might head to your bank account because you've given them the password online, but here's one physical marker to say, I own a bank account with these 4 digits.
Right. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, sure, have a bunch of stuff digitized and here's this. I also love, I'm keenly aware of the huge losses here in Colorado with the Marshall Fire, which happened so quickly. People literally grabbed their children and their pets if they were lucky, and they grabbed nothing. And, recreating this kind of stuff from scratch is so time consuming and agonizing and intense. So my husband and we've talked about like, disaster box. Yeah. What needs to go in that? But this really is a disaster box. I mean, it really is sort of everything you'd need to grab.
It is, right. And even though you could find everything online eventually, it just makes it easier for you to go through folder by folder and say, okay, I have found this, I've gone through this, and make sure that you've got everything. Yeah.
I love it. What else about the Nokbox? Is there anything we haven't touched on that you think would be interesting for listeners to know?
So it has these 2, and they're nothing but little plastic bags. They're not fancy or anything like that, but they're kind of my favorite little pieces to this bag or to the box. There's a document bag. Again, nothing but a, maybe 10 by 12 zipper bag. Because when we went through my dad's things, we were finding things like his passport and his driver's license and stuff like that we didn't really know. Like, we need a bag for that to keep it.
It's not paper. Yeah, it's not paper. It doesn't really fit in a file in the same way.
The birth certificates, things you don't want to lose. I can lose a bank account statement, but I don't want to lose the passport. So we had this bag to just keep in a safe somewhere. Like, this thing needs to be somewhere secure besides this box that we're bringing all over town. And we kept the death certificates in there as well. So the instructions that I hope people read the directions, because otherwise they just see this bag. But the directions are for you to put those things in there. I've got mine in my safe. So if I need a social security card or a passport number, I can just go into my zipper bag that's in my safe. If I need to grab and go that thing, I can grab and go. And then after someone dies, it's to keep the birth or the death certificates and the other papers like that you'll need.
Yeah.
And when the estate is finished and done, the idea is there's nothing left except that bag. The most important things. We have my dad's wallet in his bag, his wedding ring in the bag, like the last few little things. And that's everything else has been settled and done.
And
so I
really,
think that's really cool.
The insurance is done. The bank accounts are done. The pet has been figured out. Right.
It's all finished, and we're down to this one last little piece. And that's the thing we can just hang on to.
Figure out what to do, distribute however you wish. That's good.
But we don't have 9 million papers. It's done. The papers are finished.
Or going back to what we said at the beginning, you don't have a shoebox. You have like a cardboard shoebox that's taped together that's falling apart with a few things in it.
Right. It's exactly. And then there's the other bag is for keys. And we give you just blank key tags, nothing fancy whatsoever. But the idea is there are some directions. Fill the tag out with your vehicle names, even if you don't even put those keys on those rings, so people know what they are looking for. I've got 15 keys in this house to things. Here's what they are. And so if someone had to come manage your house, they'd be looking for, okay, there's a key to a shed.
Be clear.
Okay, there's a key to the whatever, the
Right,
storage
right.
unit somewhere, whatever it is, they've got their labels so they know what it is they're trying to find. And your job when you tackle that piece of the box is to get rid of that pile of keys that are sitting in your drawer that have no labels.
Right.
So they're not going through that.
Have you been looking in my junk drawer? Did you notice?
Right? Your neighbors that maybe moved or from another, neighborhood or something, all that stuff's got to go so that people don't wade through that for hours trying to test every key. So I like that little system too. It's so small, but it's kind of satisfying when you finish it.
You've really tried to create something that's like a net for catching everything. That's how I look at it. It's like, here's a wide net that catches everything that's going to funnel to these certain places. And your papers, your sheets of instructions try to help people figure out where it funnels, which I think is what's especially great about the Nokbox. It's like, yes, here's what you need to collect, and here's what you need to do with it. Again, you're going to have to look it up. There's going to be details of your state or county, but it's like a direction. It's a map. Right. And I think when you're grieving, when you're in the middle of sorting out an estate and a death, even a year later, there's so much grief. And so to have these kinds of concrete things organized in a way, or a path laid down, a map laid down, just makes everything simpler. And so I just love this, Maria. Condolences on your dad and how that all rolled out and was so complicated, but power to you for having the entrepreneurial spirit to figure out, let me find a better system. Let me put something together that can help people.
Sometimes I cannot believe I did it, but I did. And my dad would have loved it. My dad would have really loved this entire thing.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Cool. I love that. Well, thanks again. And again, you can find out more about the Nokbox at the Nokbox, and you have to kind of think to yourself, next of kin. So Nokbox.com. And you can find out more about the work I do with end of life courses and movies and books and conversation at bestlifebestdeath.com. Thanks again to Maria for joining us.
Thank you so much.